Good morning, good afternoon, and good night, and welcome to the Amateur Otaku Podcast. How is everybody doing out there? I am Brandon Alvarado, the Scarlet fan here, and I'm so excited to be here talking anime and manga with all of y'all. I hope you guys are having a great afternoon. I'm here with my good friend Isaac Wolf, and and we're very excited to talk about this brand new anime, Scar on the Praetor. It's been on Funimation, I think, for a while, and the dub just came out. And of course, we noticed that a good friend of the show, Ryan Colt Levy, the voice of Rody Soul, one of the stars of Moriarty the Patriot, announced it on his page, and we figured, what a great opportunity to give some kudos to our good friend Ryan, but also to discover something new. Um, and Scar on the Praetor, I believe, just arrived on Funimation with its dub version. I think it was last week, January 28th, at the end of the month of January. And we figured we
Sounds
get
about
together
right.
and we figured we'd get together and cover it. So we're going to talk about the show. This is going to be a non-spoiler review. We're going to talk about the themes, the ideas, things that we liked, things that we didn't like, and give you guys a nice feel of this 13 episode series. And if it's and maybe after this video, you'll find out if it's something that you should check out. Because the good thing about anime is there's plenty of anime for everybody, and whether this anime might be good for some people, it'll be great for others. So sit tight for just a couple minutes and we'll talk about Scar on the Praetor. If you love what we do here at the Amateur Otaku Podcast, make sure to go to our YouTube channel. You click on that like button and you click on that bell for notifications. We do streams every week of ongoing animes. We're doing Attack on Titan, the final season, Demon Slayer, My Hero Academia, and plenty of other videos covering random reactions or reviews of movies and series of all over the anime I don't know, genre. We cover a bunch of different things. Last a couple of weeks ago we did a Pokemon movie. Last week we did Made in Abyss, Dawn of Deep Soul. So we cover a lot of different content, and today we're going to be doing Scar on the Praetor. So make sure you click on the like button, click on the bell for notifications, subscribe, and share with your friends so you don't miss any awesome stuff on the Amateur Otaku YouTube channel, and also follow us on Twitter. And you can also follow us on our podcast channel because we're available on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Radio Public, Spotify, Stitcher, anywhere where podcasts can be found. You're probably going to find us there. And there's a great overhaul of brand new episodes coming to the podcast channel. So stay tuned and enjoy the show. So Isaac, we're going to talk about the show. So it's called Scar on the Praetor. It's a It was interesting.
Yeah.
It was an interesting show. I think it wasn't. It's not a masterpiece. I think that's the first thing we want to say. I think it has a great deal of good ideas, but there were certain things that, of course, didn't work for us. But we just want to talk. We'll do a generalized view of the show and talk about the stuff that we did like, things that we thought needed work, and things that we didn't like. And I think it's safe to say that the strongest part of the show, at least in my opinion, um, because this is my thought. I want to know what you think. Was the voice acting throughout the entire show? Like a lot of the voice actors that worked on the show did a great job on it. Of course, shout out to our good friend, and this is not us saying hi just to our good friend Ryan Colt Levy because he did a great job as Yamato, the lead in the show, because he did do a great job on trying to do the best he can with the material he was given. But that thing, the voice acting stood out. The lore that they try to establish is interesting because it's not that it's not interesting. But I think what we could say that one of the things that was hardest for us to see was that I would like to read the manga to see how the execution in the manga
This is an
was.
original story.
No, there's a manga.
Is it?
Yeah, it's a
I was very
manga.
certain it was an original story.
No, no, no. The manga came out. I think I was looking on Wikipedia. There was a manga that came out by Jui Kuroe back in 2020. And I don't know if you know who Jui Kuroe is, but she is one of the artists for the spinoffs for the KK series.
The K series, did you say?
Yeah, like Missing Kings, I think is
This
what it
makes
is.
so much more sense.
Yeah, she's one of the artists for the spinoffs, I believe. I don't think she wrote the story. I think this is one of the few stories that she's written and animated, or drawn, because I know that this is her work. I don't think she was entirely related to the animation. that was brought forth by Frontier Works and Gohands, which I have never heard of these studios. Have you heard of them? Have you seen
I
any of
have
their work?
I have heard of K, and now that I think about it, and seeing that they are behind the same anime adaptation, this makes so much more sense.
It makes so much sense in the terms of the themes of the show, or just the show itself. What? Because I have
Themes,
not.
look,
Okay, okay. Because
themes,
I
look, animation, everything.
so everything just reminds, everything screams K. Is that what you're trying to say?
From what I've heard, yes.
Okay, okay. Um, but yeah, I mean, so this show is about a particular is about these vigilantes or kids or group of people that want to protect or take control of this particular district called the Akatsuki district, which Akatsuki Naruto, of course, that's the problem being anime fans. Every time I hear Akatsuki, no matter where I go, I'm just thinking about pain, which, you know, something as great as that, right? But yeah, so they're trying to protect this district from all different factions. This particular district in Japan, I would assume, is where it takes place. It's kind of like self-governed, because of war, greed, and all that stuff. And then you have um, different parties members are trying to either protect it or take control of it. You have Helios, which are the quote unquote heroes of the Akatsuki district. You have Artemis, which is quote unquote the financial district that wants to take over or control it from the background. You have the police, which are the PSSS, and then you have the Dusk, which are practically the mafia trying to take control over it. But what makes the spin of the show is that the major players of these four parties are scarred. That is the name of the what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say breed, but there are these type of mystical warriors called scarred that have these divine tattoos that give them powers. This reminds me a lot of Guilty Crown, right? Like the whole thing about having access to something that nobody else has access to, and literally gives you like a ginormous advantage, right? You know, does it
Yeah,
make sense what I'm saying? I mean, it reminds me a lot of Guilty Crown, which is a series that we covered. I think we covered that when we started going on YouTube. It's one of the first YouTube shows that we covered. Um,
Guilty Crown, yeah.
so it reminds me of Guilty Crown, and I like the idea of the scarred not be susceptible to gunfire, just because in a modernized world, you you would assume, which I think is one of the more, what I like about the show the most is that this show has a lot of interesting ideas. I think what you and I both agree on is that they have it's different ideas, but there's some of the execution probably needed more polish. What do you think?
I mean, I was talking to my little sis who watched this anime with me. She's the one that usually watch anime with me when I'm watch just for curiosity of what we're gonna cover.
Right.
And she said to me afterwards that that it felt like a first draft. It's a There was some great ideas going into this,
Right.
but the dialogue that the voice actor had to do was the dialogue is arguably one of the weakest, if not the weakest part of the entire series.
Right.
Even though this anime has some weird fixation about blending hyper realistic CG animation with additional 2D anime. There
And you
is
know,
what was it? There is the Crunchyroll produced anime, Deus
oh
Ex Arms or whatever.
yeah.
That one looks way worse. Don't get me wrong, but
Hmm.
I just couldn't sit there and wonder. Both of us, we wonder why isn't it, if they want to be so hyper realistic with the look of the town and all that? Yes. Why make this an anime then? Why not make this live action?
You know something that I it's funny that you say that because I think I saw something online that there is a live action play of Scarred on the Praetor, which which I think
Serious.
I think so. Let me see. I think there's let me see. There's I think I saw something about a live like a play like there's a yes. Ha, there is a thing. TV anime Scar and Praetor. Okay, I'm gonna share this because I think there's people out there, Isaac, that that are thinking the same thing as you. Because if you look here, TV anime Scar on the Praetor gets stage play adaptation this fall. The franchise has released drama CDs, character songs, and a web program hosted. So this is like something's been going on for a long time since November 2019. So it's by the looks of it, it's very popular. So now I kind of wonder because you know you and I both know we when did this come out? When did this report come out? I want to see the date on it. Let me see. Yeah, this came out back in April 28th of last year. This particular report, right? So what I wonder is because you and I both know that for certain things to get to the anime stage, they have to be very appealing to a crowd. They have to have a certain amount of likes, a certain volume or degree of volumes and chapters of the manga have to be purchased, right? So this definitely
Yeah.
works for some people, which we don't want to say that this is a horrible show because it's not because there were certain things that didn't work for you and me, but I know it's going to work for a lot of other people. And I think the biggest thing that we want to say is there's a lot of great ideas. So I don't know if the issue is with the anime adaptation specifically in terms of the visuals and in terms of the pacing because I would assume the manga did something right. Now I actually want to read the book. I want to read the manga to see what I'm missing because you don't get to drama CDs, a radio adaptation, a share, a play adaptation without having a following. You know what I mean? Um, and you and I think we both agree that there's a lot of great concepts on the show that actually work, right? Or at least that you want them to work because they're interesting and they're cool. Um, and but going back to what you said about the animation being so weird, you know what the animation reminded me of? It reminded me uh it reminded me of PlayStation 1 JRPGs where you have these 3D pre-rendered environments and and the sprites move along this pre-rendered environment. You know what I mean? You don't have an
Yeah.
environment that's developed like a- a- and I don't want to say that we should think about I think I wonder if it's a budget issue. Maybe the budget wasn't there for them to fulfill the vision of the anime that they wanted or maybe the resources just weren't there um because you got to think about when you have a show like Psychopaths, right? Like you and I, Psycho. If we were to talk about hyper realistic, you cannot get more hyper realistic and futuristic than Psychopaths, right? We know how great anime looks like, especially this kind. So I could see where this had a lot of potential, either handled by a different studio or maybe with more funding. What do you think? Because I don't think because with the amount of adaptations that we've seen, I don't think the material is the problem.
I mean, Gohands isn't exactly a low budget studio, so I don't know.
Yeah,
But they are known for being a very experimental with their
true,
animation.
true, true. Because and the funny thing is this, um, to me the action set pieces were okay. But the reason why I think there were budget issues to a degree in my mind is because I don't know if you noticed, but there was a lot of reused animation. There were a lot of scenes,
Oh yeah, it was.
especially in the action set pieces. A lot of things were used. So that's why I think about budget, as opposed to thinking that. So I don't think, because the whole thing about the divine tattoos and the idea that it's kind of linked to Norse mythology, but at the same thing, it's a mixture of Norse mythology with Greek mythology. Like, so they're mixing all these ideas. The idea that none of these people are susceptible to gunfire, which to me, that is the brilliance of the concept. Because in a world in a story that takes place in a modern world, of course, nothing beats a gun, right? So there's nothing like a mystical force that makes guns useless. So you have to address combat differently. Does that make sense?
Kinda.
So I like that idea. The idea that guns are useless against these particular type of individuals, and once they come together in a battle, then it goes down to specifically the mystical powers and prowess and stamina and all those things. So I like that. So I kind of want more of the lore, or I would have wanted this to feel like a season one where where we would just put seed in to everything that they wanted to explore. But then again, at the same time, the I do want to appreciate the fact that what's in the forefront of the show is not the lore. It's not necessarily the Akatsuki conflict, even though these are the plot points that move. These are the MacGuffins, right? That move the show along. What this show really is about brotherhood. It's about friendship. It's about non-sibling related relationships. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong.
Because you see this with Minato and Yamato, Yamato and Kasuma, Kasuma and Eiji, um, what's the name of Ron and Inji, Itsu and Koga. Like, all of them are these partners or pairs of people that have to learn to depend on each other, trust each other, help each other, keep each other in check. And it's all about those relationships. Like, you even have episodes where you barely see the main character because you're exploring this other pairing, right? So it's all about these relationships and them working together and clashing with each other and the other pairings. Um, which, of course, as a person that likes, and this is a guilty pleasure that I'm about to admit to the universe, as a person that loves Supernatural, which is one of the corniest and like guilty pleasure shows the CW has ever produced, what makes that show amazing and interesting and lovable, and the reason it probably lasted 15 seasons, is because everybody loves the adventures, not because of the adventures, but because they love Sam and Dean. They love those two brothers and everything they face against together, right? And you can go very far with a story where you have this concept of these two brothers going against the world, right? Um, I mean, it's one of the most classic stories, right?
Yeah,
What
pretty
did you think
much.
of what did you think about this exploration or this concept or the way they? I think it's one of the strongest part of the show. What do you think?
I mean, how should I put it? It was when they did that, when, well, like you said, it was a certain part of the show. However, it just proved the point of this series needed, I would argue, or something along the lines of 4 to 5 more episodes. Because even though I'm all on board of with the whole idea of because I like you said, it was about brotherhood and all that. Yes, there was. there was no really a time to allow it to breathe, if that makes any sense.
I can see that. I can see that. And I think instead of it feeling like you have these one, two, three distinct pairs, right? A lot of
Yeah,
times because of the pacing, it feels like there's not really that big a difference between these three pairs. You
yeah,
know what I mean? They kind of blend together, and they kind of lose a little bit of their identity, which is why I go back to why the voice acting was great, because the voice actors really went out of their way to make each of their characters unique enough that you like their nuance. You kind of you see them working to make sure that their characters is known when they're on screen, and I think they distinguish themselves enough. And but I think that the way that each of the pairs were explored is what, and the way the writing was, like, you kind of wanted, like, the actors did everything they could to bring their own identity to each of the characters, but you kind of wanted the content to help make solidify that. You know what I mean? And a lot of the content just wasn't there.
yeah,
And also, uh, and this is not to say that the whole thing with the abilities and the powers were an afterthought, because you can tell that there was a lot of creativity to it, and the idea that each of them felt unique. But I also felt we didn't have enough time to explore all the abilities, and I kind of wanted that too. Like, I kind of wanted to know more about, okay, so Cerberus is the whole thing about Cerberus is that he can smell killing intent. So that's interesting. The whole thing with what was it, Kagumi's or whatever, Kagumi's Ouroboros, is the thing that he can heal, but also he can kill. You know, the whole thing with the Ouroboros tattoo and all that. But the whole thing with the Phoenix and illusions, like, you kind of get all that has to do with divine tattoos is kind of like strongly glossed over, that I kind of wanted more
yeah.
time. You know, I kind of wanted more time. I wanted more time. And I think if we had more time, we maybe would have appreciated a lot of the things that the author or the creative team wanted to bring to the table. So
Yeah.
so I kind of want to read the manga now, because especially with all the adaptations, it's probably going to get a movie too. So um
Probably.
and you know what? And also, I think it's a mixture of, I wanted more time with it, but at the same time, maybe I wanted to spend less time with it. And what I mean by that, I wonder if a lot of this would have worked better as a feature film as opposed to a 13 episode series.
How
You
do you
know,
mean?
like maybe the whole thing with, like, you could have streamlined a lot of the concepts, maybe eliminated some of the characters, but you know what I mean, like, I don't know. I think after watching Mugen Train and how great that was, maybe this could have benefit in a treatment with the treatment like that. Maybe like streamline the whole Fenrir arc in a more in that way, or something like that, or divided it in
Could
like
be.
three films, or it's a bit more concise. Maybe it could have been better. Because you got to think about, if with the whole thing that we talked about budgetary and things being reused, you would think that if they would do a feature film where they would take maybe the first half of the story, you could have used your resources a bit better to bring up more of the animation and focus on certain points of the story. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? Again, I'm not a director. I don't have all the money. I have never directed a video in my life. but, but that's just me thinking on top of my head, because I kind of want more Scar on the Praeter, because I like a lot of the things that came up with it. I like the voice acting a lot. Um, and I want to read the manga now, because I want to see, because if the show was supposed to tell me what the fuss was about, I couldn't get all of it. But now I see there is a fuzz because there's all these adaptations. So now I want to go back to the original to see what's there.
Yeah. I can I can agree with you on that part.
So, guys, Scar on the Praetor is on Funimation. It's available there in or I believe is available in English and the original Japanese. Um, go check it out. I mean, if you love shows about brotherhood, there's a lot of cool ideas and concepts here. The lore is interesting. And it is a very easy watch because there are 23-minute episodes. There's only 13 of them. If you're looking for something simple to binge real quick while you're waiting on the next show or the next Demon Slayer episode, this is a good show to watch in between. And also, the great and phenomenal Ryan Colt Levi is the lead, Jama Tokai, and he does an amazing job at it. If you like his work, you should definitely check him out on Scar on the Praeter. So, anything else, Isaac?
No, not that I can think of.
But yeah. Oh, by the way, if anybody caught my what I'm trying to hint at on my name in this episode, if you read it, Full Metal Ouroboros, if you caught this, please let me know in the comments because that will make me very proud of our community. So yeah, it's a double entendre. But yeah, those are our thoughts on Scar on the Praetor. Go check it out. Maybe go to Japan and watch the play. Maybe go watch the manga. If you've read the manga, let us know what you think of this adaptation and share with us in the comment section on our YouTube channel. But thanks for joining us, guys. We will see you very soon. And we will see you next time with more anime coverage. Isaac, where can we find you, my brother?
Well, you can find me over at Verbum Entertainment, and you can find me on Emblemaniac on Twitter.
And you can find me at the Scarlet Fan 52 on Twitter and at the Scarlet Fan 52 on Instagram. And you can find us at Amateur Otaku Pod. Have it awesome, guys. Peace.
Peace.